Well, hello there, welcome to the Obi-Thorn Alliance. In today's video, we'll be doing a Thunderforce review on Netflix, and who's going to be helping me with is Luke. Just a quick disclaimer, it's going to be a spoil discussion, so if you haven't watched the movie yet, you can come back and watch this video when you've watch the movie, and if you can, like and subscribe, it will help out the channel. I guess we'll start off with what we liked about the movie and talk a little bit about the story and characters.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about it.
Basically, the premise of the movie is at the beginning we get this intro that somehow serial killers become basically with powers and
Yeah, I should have watched that twice, because when you explained it to me, I didn't quite get it, and then I watched it, I still didn't get it. But something about, yeah, if you're like I wasn't necessarily a serial killer. It was saying if someone was like narcissistic or like a bad person, they would develop this thing, and then that would give them some kind of powers, and gave them a name. So like Cretans or something.
yeah, Cretans.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and they gave them some kind of evil powers. And yeah, so that's the premise. And then we've got the two main characters, Melissa McCarthy and
Tanning or something.
Yeah, and she's in quite a few things, isn't she? She's in C.J. Walker, the show.
And the show that I just watched, Truth Be Told, and she's in Hidden Figures. She's quite a good actress.
Yeah, she's in quite a lot of things. So tell me about how they come together and how they know each other in this movie.
Well, when the opening sequence is finished, it starts off with them actually being in high school with different different actresses as younger people, and you can kind of tell at the start of who they're going to become.
Yeah, and we've got Melissa McCarthy's character's kind of like she's not very good academically, she kind of doesn't care about school, and she doesn't dress nicely, and she's a bit rough around the edges. And then her friend, she is
smart.
Yeah, she's smart. She's an orphan. Like she said, her parents died because of these, like, whatever these the evil villain characters are, that they'd killed her parents, and they were trying to find a way to fight against them and give normal people powers, and her goal was to pick up their research and carry it on. And then so fast forwards a few years, and then where are they at then?
Well, how they first met was actually what Mellisa helped when they were younger. They helped each other from getting bullied, basically. Yeah,
you're right. Actually, so it was saying that so Melissa McCarthy's character Lydia, she's in class, and Octavia Spencer's character Emily is new, and she's smart, and she's getting bullied. And Melissa McCarthy steps in to stop her from getting bullied, and she actually beats up the boy that is picking on her.
Yeah.
And then from that they form an unlikely friendship because they're such opposites. And they go on, eventually have some kind of disagreement and don't talk to each other because they start to live different lives. And then
the argument was about the smart one was basically saying, "Oh, you're not going to amount to anything," and then
because I think she wanted to have a rest before she was tired and was studying, and then Melissa McCarthy's character's like, "Oh, just have a rest, I'll set an alarm for you," and then she couldn't even get that right and didn't set the alarm, and then she missed the exam and so forth. And then we forward to present time, and what's going on? There's a few things. There's characters, there's politicians, there's their big corporation that Emily works for, and then there's Lydia she works in construction or something.
Yeah, she's drives trucks.
Yeah, so tell us about that.
Well, she's driving trucks and I guess making ends meet, and then she's like doing stuff with the
Yeah. Then we've got the politician, the king, I think he calls himself. And what's his story?
Well, he's trying to lose the election on purpose because he wants to be mayor, but he's losing on purpose.
Yeah. And there's the other candidate who is more popular.
Yeah.
And then, so we're at the point where at present time, Lydia and Emily are being texting and they're going to meet up because...
School reunion.
There's a school reunion. And then what happens there?
Well, Melissa McCartney's Emily has this awkward conversation with the kind of friend that they had, and then it was an awkward like knock joke.
Yeah. So they had the boy that was in earlier, and he said that he wanted to be funny so he could pick up girls, but he could never get the jokes right.
Yeah.
And so basically Emily doesn't show up to the reunion, so Melissa McCarthy's character goes searching for her and decides to go to a building and find out why she didn't come to the reunion, and that's kind of where the movie kicks off. So tell me what happens there.
Well, we actually get to see one of the supers in action.
Yeah.
In the previous scene, and she almost gets smacked by something.
So yeah, we've got the Cretans, and we get introduced to one of the characters that has kind of like, not electricity, but she fires like a laser of some sort.
Yeah. And
then she tries to take out the king at one of his speeches, and they try and they're like basically terrorizing the neighborhood, and people are a bit sick of it, and they're hoping that one day someone will step out and fight for the people opposed to letting these people ruin their lives.
Yeah.
So she goes and visits Emily at her work.
And then the security guard is like, oh, you won't get in. And then she gets in, and then, oh, did you buy that? I kind of thought it's like it was convenient and needed to happen for the story, but it's like you got two people in really different edges of wealth and demographic that I don't know.
Oh, well, I guess they're friends. Like, I'm here to see Emily, and they're like, yeah, good luck, that's the CEO, you're not going to get in there. She calls her up, and then...
She got the last line.
And then she obviously has said, yeah, that's my friend, send her up. So she's very surprised.
Yeah.
So she goes up, and she kind of is, like, overwhelmed by how cool and fancy the office is.
Yeah. And then out of all the places they take her to the place where, you know...
Yeah, they've set up this chair for, like, to do an experiment and give someone some of these powers, like what this whole company's been working on for years. And she...
No security or anything, that just this man to give her drinks, and it's like no one's watching her, and then
yeah, she gets in the chair, presses a few buttons, and
she got told not to.
Yeah, and she gets stabbed by the needle, and then basically told you've been injected with what we've been working on. It's going to give you super strength.
Yeah.
And if you don't follow through with the doses,
you're going to die.
You're going to die, so you're going to have to follow it through, which you could still possibly die, but you might end up with super strength. And then Emily also, she developed another type of ability that she decides to give herself.
And we go through this training montage, and then Melissa McCartney's character Emily works out that she has a daughter.
Yeah, so Lydia goes through. She's getting strength, and they do the montage of training, and they add some funny bits and your typical Melissa McCarthy comedy.
Yeah.
Emily is going through becoming invisible, and she only has to take a pill so many times. Where Melissa McCarthy's character has to get these like needles to the face like 30 something times for a treatment.
And we meet this CIA like agent as well. That's like head of security.
Yeah, so there's a head of security who's which I was suspect from the beginning.
But the thing that what happened with her that didn't get me. I don't know about yourself.
Yeah, so I was suspect from the beginning that she was probably going to be a villain, which we find out later she is.
Yeah.
They find out Emily has a daughter who's young and smart and like a teenager, but finished college and works at the company and
basically like Sheldon.
Yeah, and Lydia becomes friends with her, and like they get along really well.
Fortnite.
Yeah, they're about similar levels of maturity.
Yeah.
So they work out well, and they build a friendship. So they eventually get their powers. They decide to get this cool purple Lamborghini as their
But do you think it would have made more sense that the CEO would have gave it to someone else? So I know she gave it to herself, but what happens if anything happened and she left her daughter without a parent? Because
yeah, I think it's silly. I think she would have given it to someone else.
Like at least have Melissa McCartney's character, someone, you could have. I think that actually would have worked better. You could have someone that's really serious and someone that's funny, and then you can make it the opposite way. I think that would have worked better.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense, but for the sake of the movie, that's what they've done.
Yeah.
So they get their Lamborghini, they go out, they decide to fight crime, and then we get introduced to...
Crabman.
Yeah, like a character that's played by Jason Bateman, and he's got crab claws, but he's got a human's body, and...
The most awkward and...
Yeah, so then... So Melissa McCarthy sees him, and she has this, like, long-winded, like... love sequence scene in her head where they're like dancing. Yeah, and she's like attracted to him and he's attracted to her.
But we find out you can actually be half human, half
cretin or
yeah. So he's half Yeah,
and we find out later that he's half crab because instead of the other people where their brain has changed and given them powers because they're evil, he was a nice guy that went on his honeymoon and got bitten by a radioactive crab, which made him half crab, half human. And then he then took up a life of crime, basically because he was considered himself a freak and an outcast. And, so they stop him and his gang from robbing this convenience store. Melissa McCarthy kind of falls in love with him and he has some kind of attraction to her.
And we get the tasing scene when one of the henchmen get tasered.
Yes, I forgot about that scene. Which is quite funny. What else in the movie without going through every single scene? So we've got that. So we've established that they've got their powers. They've got their Lamborghini. They got their suit. They work out Emily's got a daughter. They know who the villains are. They want to get rid of this girl that's got the laser beam powers. She's the so-called villain that they're worried about. But then behind the scenes we realise that this guy, the king, who to the public is a good guy, he's a politician, but he's secretly also a cretin.
Yeah. And
he's got more sinister plans where I think he wants to eventually be like the president of their country. And
we get a pretty funny scene, I guess, when he's like, he kills one of the henchmen and then Jason Bateman's character is like, oh, you killed the wrong henchman there.
Yeah, he has this thing where he keeps killing henchmen.
Yeah.
And then every time he goes near them, they kind of back away all scared. He's like, oh, why are you scared? I'm not going to kill you. Even though they just saw him kill someone else.
Yeah.
So he's an interesting character. He's a good actor too. He's in quite a few things that I like.
Yeah.
So we have that.
The boss?
Yeah, she comes into another fight with them. Melissa McCarthy's character gets told, don't throw a bus, don't throw the bus. And she picks up a bus and she throws the bus.
And then they split up again and then it feels like it repeats from high school.
Yeah, exactly. They have their argument, they split up. They later make up, realise they should be friends.
Yeah. It feels like there's no character growth in this movie. I know it's a character, but Melissa McCartney's character basically stays the same, and Opie Temment's character basically stays the same, but you could argue she's the main character because the story revolves around her more because of what happened to her parents.
Yeah, so then they end up Melissa McCarthy goes on a date with the Crab Man. It's quite a funny scene in the movie. Like they're at a restaurant and a guy offers them seafood, and then they have this whole joke about him with the claws.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the funniest scenes of the movie. So they become love interest. They organise some kind of battle with the king. It seems like we're rushing through this, but the movie is rushed. The movie kind of skips a lot of important things and just goes, oh, you got powers. Oh, you've had a battle. Oh, movie over.
Yeah, because the king, how we find out he's the villain, he actually goes to where the CEO, where that building is, and he actually goes and...
Yeah, he goes there, they do a bit of damage to it. So the reason the king loses the election, and then he kind of doesn't take it very well, and then that's when they decide... Basically, he's planned that he's going to try and kill a whole bunch of people by hosting a party. They get this idea that the party's like a setup, and that's where we find out that this CIA agent that's helping out the heroes is actually helping out the villains. What are you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, did you know the scene when he actually came in and then he came out? It's like, oh, which way is it?
Yeah. And then, so we find out about the CIA agent because Octavia Spencer's daughter hears her double-crossing them and talking to someone. And then we find out that she's got powers too, which doesn't make sense. Like, she'd been treating herself and she gave herself super speed.
Oh, I hated that.
But we didn't see her take any treatment, any medication.
She just got there.
Like, it just wasn't mentioned. And I guess it's something she did in secret. But yeah, so she gets super speed and comes and helps them have this battle. This almighty girl that has the lasers, they defeat her pretty easily and like lock her behind a garbage bin, which is like, well, she was suddenly super powerful and was killing everyone, and then they defeat her easily. They come up against the king and again kind of beat him easily, and then they've got to then defuse a bomb, which could have been done in so many other ways.
Could have chucked the bomb.
Yeah, she could have chucked the bomb in the water.
Got to have this epic thing.
She could have threw the bomb super high in the air until it blew up. Because she has super strength and she can throw a bus like hundreds of meters. So surely she can throw a suitcase bomb like well up in the air and it blows up.
She doesn't think that well.
But yeah, instead she grabs it and then jumps in the water and then it blows up and they think that she's dead, but she's not. And then they keep showing the scenes where she keeps like throwing up water because she was underwater and yeah, so the movie is rushed. It's not too long.
No.
There's a lot of things that go wrong in it, and there's a few things that go right, but depends which lens you look at it, whether you think it's a superhero movie or whether it's a comedy, because it's not really a superhero movie in my opinion.
No.
It has superhero themes, but
it had potential.
But it's not made to be, I think, a great superhero movie. Like, you're not meant to go, oh, I hope they make comic books and sequels of this, and like, it's just meant to be funny. Like, the idea is okay, but again, it just had mainly funny scenes. So, what are some things you liked about it?
I guess I enjoyed the concept. I would have liked to know more, but the reason was because it's a comedy and we kind of want more funny scenes, and so the story doesn't matter as much.
Okay, so you liked the concept, you thought it was funny.
Yeah, some scenes were funny, and I guess Jason Bateman I quite liked.
Yeah, I reckon the same. I thought it was
if he wasn't in the movie, it'd probably be one.
I thought it was funny. I guess I don't mind that it skipped a lot of things because it wasn't long and didn't drag on. It was a quick watch. There was definitely a lot of funny scenes in it. Jason Bateman was great.
Yeah.
I liked, I liked, he was funny. I think all the actors did alright. But yeah, things were missing, but it was good enough. I think I'm not going to give it a high rating, but I'm not going to say it was a horrible movie. I think it's, if you watch that and expect it to be amazing, you're an idiot. Like you just only have to watch the trailer and look at the actors that are in it and see that it's Melissa McCarthy and it's superhero and go, this movie's not going to be too serious. Like it's just a quick laugh. And if you're not into that, don't watch it because you're not going to get anything more than that. What are some things you disliked that could have been better?
I very much dislike how we got this montage of the adults going through, you know, it was funny how, you know, Melissa McCartney's character just had, you know, she did it the hard way, and then the scientist, because she's smart, she just had to take pills, and then because they needed the daughter to be there, she just happened to have speed. Like, to me, I dislike that bit. I guess that they made the interesting concept. I wanted to hear more. I was kind of disappointed about that. It's like, oh yeah, these people got interesting powers. It would have been interesting to know, is it just in America? Or is it, you know, like...
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I thought I would have liked to have known a bit more about how the villains become villains.
Yeah.
I would have liked to know how many villains there are and where they are, because we were only introduced to 3 villains, if that, maybe a 4th, and they defeated them or one of them became good. So what's left? Is that the end of Thunderforce, or is there a lot more of these villains? I also don't quite understand how Emily's company became so rich, because they would develop that. If they took them like 20 years to develop this thing that made someone powerful, how did they make money for the 20 years to fund the research? Like, she had a massive tower and had all these research facilities, but how did they get the money to do that? Like, they would have had to have been making something else, so maybe that would have been nice to be explained a bit more. But yeah, they're the things that stood out for me that could have been better. What would you give it as a wrap up and a rating?
I guess final thoughts would be, you know, the CIA is a trained professional. It's like, I thought it was kind of funny how she's like talking while she thought the other person left the room, and then it's like, oh, didn't leave the room. I thought that was...
Yeah. And then what give us a rating, and do you or don't you recommend it?
Out of 5, I would give it 2 out of 5. If you're in the mood for light entertainment, you know, a decent enough story and something just to, you know, chill out and relax, I would recommend it. But if you're more in a serious mood, but, you know, for a comedy, it's decent, but, you know, I think it's worth watching, but you got to be in a certain mood, I think, to watch it.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 3. I think for a Melissa McCarthy movie, it's not bad. You know, it's kind of I can't see any movie she could be in that would ever be a 4.5 to a 5. So I think a 3 for her is pretty good. Not because she's a bad actress. It's just the type of movie she's in. She's a middle-aged, chubby woman and a comedian. There's only like several roles she could play. Like, it's pretty limited. She kind of plays the same character over and over. So I think a 3 is what I'd give it. Good enough to watch. If it was longer, probably would have been too boring and got less stars. The performance was good. Jason Bateman kind of made it. If they put someone else in there, the storyline between her and him is so weird, and it works.
Yeah.
Like, it was so weird that it made it funny.
Yeah.
I think anything else it had to be so stupid. Like, his ability and his powers had to be so silly that it would not have been funny otherwise. So I think a 3 out of 5. I recommend people to give it a watch if you just run out of things and want to try something different. Would I watch it again? Probably not.
No.
I think it's one of those, you've seen it once, you know it happens.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about that lately, about movies. Sometimes you can give a movie a high rating, but can you watch them again?
Yeah.
And I'm a person that doesn't watch movies multiple times unless it's a comedy, because I'm watching it for the laughs, not the storyline. Where I find it hard to watch a serious movie or a thriller or a mystery multiple times, because you already know what happens. You've started it and you know the ending. Or a comedy, you could know the ending, but that's not the point. You're there to watch the laughs in between. But this is a comedy, probably wouldn't watch it again, though.
Yeah, that's interesting perspective. So you found that the jokes weren't as funny compared to classic comedies, I guess you can say?
Oh, they were kind of like a bit predictable, you know what I mean? Like they're the jokes you come to expect from Melissa McCarthy, which is fine, but are they ongoing laughs? No. Is it a movie I'm going to quote with friends or like talk about? No. Can I even remember any of the one-liners in the movie? No. I just remember the gist of scenes, but I don't remember exactly where. Some of the classic comedies I like maybe an Adam Sandler comedy, I could probably nearly tell you word for word what happens in them, because the jokes are funny and they hold merit and they can be used over and over. Where this, nah, not really. Doesn't make it a bad movie. It's just I watch it once. That's it. You want to add anything else?
Do you see them making a sequel to the movie? Because anything can happen. They made it that the world is endless possibilities, but do you think it warrants a sequel?
Definitely doesn't warrant one. Could they make one?
Of course.
Probably. Will they? Maybe. Netflix, because it gets released straight to Netflix, possibly they can make it cheaper. So they might. Will they? Probably not. It would have had to have got a pretty high rating to make them want to make a second movie. But in saying that, other Netflix movies have had 3 now. Like I think The Kissing Booth got like a 3rd movie now, or at least 2. And I haven't seen it, but I can't imagine it's great. And that got 3. So I guess if it gets enough interest, they might do it.
Well, thanks for coming on and for giving your critiques. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. Let the force be with you. Bye bye.